Initiation by Elisabeth Haich. Chapter 31, Bo-Ghar and the Staff of Life. One afternoon, after a storm had lasted for several days, when the wind has abated, but the waves are still running high, Father and I row out some distance from shore to enjoy the waves that rock our little boat to and fro. Suddenly I notice something being battered about by the waves. It appears and disappears, rises up, and sinks out of sight again. "Father," I cry out, "look, what's that over there?" Father glances off to where I'm pointing. "Let's row over there," he answers, and starts pulling with might and main. As we approach, we can see that what we've spotted is probably the wrecked hulk of a sailing vessel. We see broken planks still clinging together, the snapped-off mast with its sail in shreds, and then I spy a human form clinging to the wreckage. "Look, a child!" Father shouts, starting to row even faster. It seems as if we'll never get there, but finally we do. A haggard boy, about 10 years of age, clings desperately to the broken planks. He's already half dead. His legs hang down limply, and the waves pound his body to and fro. His eyes are quite expressionless, and his hands, which seem to be glued to the planks, are all that keep him from sliding off into the water. Father tries to maneuver our little boat quite close, but the waves keep beating us back until finally he's able to seize a piece of wreckage and pull us up close. As he does so, I loosen the child's clamped hands, and then together we draw him into our little boat. He seems to be unconscious. Father starts to row for shore as fast as possible. Our servants have noticed what has happened, and they set out in several boats to meet us. Father carries the child into the house, and then the servants hold the boy up by his feet so that his head is hanging down. Then, with powerful, rhythmic, steadying strokes, Father squeezes the boy's abdomen and ribs together in order to force out any water that the boy may have swallowed. Finally, Father has the servants lay out the boy on his own bed and sends them all out. Now I witness something very strange. Father goes to a little casket, which I've never seen in his room at home, and which he has always taken on his travels wherever he went. He takes out a little staff resembling a cross with a circle on top F. On top? He holds the staff with this ring firmly in his hand, and he begins to make passes with it over the boy's body, moving it in one direction after another. I can see that Father is concentrating very intently, directing all his attention to the boy. First, he holds the staff at the top of the boy's head for a little while, and then he draws it slowly over his face, down to his heart, stopping there for a moment. Then, moving forward from the region of the heart, Father draws imaginary lines over the boy's trunk to his genitals, and then repeats the same movements, starting out at the top of the head. He moves the staff along the boy's arms, up to his hands, and then finally over his legs down to his feet. Father has scarcely touched the boy's head with the little staff when the child draws a deep breath. Then, as Father moves the staff over different parts of the boy's body, he goes on breathing regularly, and the body twitches and quivers, and gradually he comes to, and by the time Father is making his last passes, the boy suddenly opens his eyes, sits bolt upright to all appearances in perfect health, and then without warning, he falls to his knees before Father, flings his arms around Father's legs, lays his forehead on Father's feet, and cries and sobs bitterly. Father helps him up and takes him up on his lap and dries his tears with tender, loving care. The boy speaks a language I can only understand through spiritual contact. My telepathic exercises have developed my finer organs of sense to the point that I can understand the gist of his story without having to understand his words. The boy tells us that his father, who was a merchant in a distant land, set out to bring a shipload of goods to Egypt in order to sell them there. He took his wife and son along with him so that they'd be able to see what Egypt was like. After several weeks of travel, they were overtaken by a terrible storm. After days of struggle with the raging elements, the ship broke and sank. His mother and several sailors disappeared in the waves right away, while he and his father and some of the other sailors clung to a few pieces of wreckage. Then he saw his father to slip off into the water and go down. He clung tightly to whatever he could lay his hands on, and that was all he could remember. Father, I say, when the child has finished his story and begins to calm down, while I see in his spiritual radiation the gaping emptiness of stark panic and desperation. The boy doesn't belong to anybody now. Let me take care and have him brought up and educated. Minu will teach him the language and everything he needs to know as far as behavior is concerned. He can get schooling and training in the temple. You see what a pure soul he has and how intelligent he is. I'll take him to the temple so that he can develop his abilities. We'll see how he develops there and what he shows a talent for. Maybe he'll become a priest. Please let me take care of him. Good, Father says. You may keep him. The fact that you saw him and you found him in the waves is a part of the fate that has linked you and him together for eons and ages. According to the inner laws of fate, he belongs to you. While we are yet talking about him, the boy looks at us. Then, as if he'd understood, he falls to his knees before me. He throws his arms around my knees, and he gives me every indication of gratitude and confidence. I take the boy's hand and I turn him over to a servant who gets him clothes and food. He eats with such a healthy appetite that it's hard to imagine he was completely exhausted only a few minutes earlier. As soon as a bed is made up for him in the corner of my room, he drops off to sleep instantly. Father and I go out to the terrace, and the surface of the sea is gradually quieting down, and we enjoy the play of the colors at sunset. Father, I ask, what kind of force is there in this little staff of yours? What was it made of, and how? It affected that boy like magic. He was half dead. Yet after your treatment with the staff, he was filled with new vital energy. After some moments of silence, Father replies, yes, the youngster really was filled with new vital energy. The secret of this staff is one of the secrets of initiation. We have kept it secret because the staff cannot only transmit vital force, but can also kill. If the secret of the staff were to fall into the hands of ignorant and self-seeking people, they would immediately use it wrongly. The time is already very near at hand when you will receive your initiation, and you've learned to keep silence. That's why I let you look on while I treated the boy with the staff. Ptahhotep will give you a thorough explanation of the secret of the staff. Ptahhotep, after you're initiated, he'll teach you how to use it too. Tomorrow we'll go back to the city and you'll report to him again. You've made such great progress, such self-control. Your initiation is near at hand. After your final instructions, you'll get it. I'm silent with inward emotion. My initiation is near at hand. The long years of preparatory exercises will at last be over, and I am to be admitted into the secret sanctuary of the temple, initiated. In silence and in a deep spiritual stillness, Father and I watch the glorious, ever-changing drama of the sunset. Our few happy days of freedom are over so soon. Again, we are in the city, in the palace. I take the child, the poor little bird that has lost its nest, into my chambers, and I tell Manu what has happened. Manu's good, kindly heart goes out to the boy, and she treats him as if he were her own child. He points to himself, and he says, Bo-Ghar, and when we call him this, he rewards us with a happy smile. He has a fine soul. His body is slender, full of life and fire, resilient, limber, and strong. He picks up everything easily. He learns new words and expressions in our language after hearing them only once. In the evening, I go to Ptahhotep for some more instruction. As I walk there with Minu along the route that has become so familiar to me, I reflect that Ima no longer needs to wait at the door to guide me to Ptahhotep's reception room. I know the way. Yes, even my feet know the way to Ptahhotep. Yet, at the temple door, I see Ima's magnificent figure appear out of the darkness. His pure radiance fills the air all around him. I cast a stolen glance at his handsome body and check myself to see whether I could feel a physical attraction for him. No, I could never love him physically. I feel the loving tie that binds us so deep it makes us completely one. How could a person love and desire himself physically? Ima, too, is descended from the race of the sons of God. He, too, has the elongated cranial form. He is pure, lofty like an angel, spiritually personified. No, he could never love me physically, nor I him. Joyously I ask him, "How did you know I was coming? Did Ptahhotep perhaps send you out to meet me?" Ima smiles. Haven't you got used to the fact that a spiritually awakened person doesn't need external sources of information in order to know what a kindred spirit is doing and where he is? I concentrated on you in order to find out whether you'd already returned to the city with the pharaoh, so I could prepare your next tasks for you. As I did so, I found you were on your way here. Ptahhotep is expecting you. Come in. Tomorrow we'll be working together again. Ima goes, and I enter Ptahhotep's reception room. Through my long exercises in self-observation and self-control, and through my long efforts to master the 12 sets of twin characteristics, I have learned not to transmit my joy into my body, so instead of throwing my arms around Ptahhotep's neck, I radiate all my love and joy through nerve centers that carry my consciousness, especially through my eyes. I bow low before him. He understands and he sees my conscious control over my expressions of love, that is, over the forces working within me. I understand and I see that he understands and sees, and we are united in spirit. Oh, this unity is a thousandfold greater happiness than a physical embrace. I am blissfully happy in this perfect unity, and I wait to learn what he has to tell me. For a while his eyes rest upon me, full of love and joy. His glance goes through and through me, unhindered. Finally he says, "The time has come for you to learn the secret of the staff and the use of our other instruments. Your father knew that you were ready to learn these secrets. That's why he took the opportunity to show you the life-giving aspect of the staff. From now on, you are to come to me each evening so that I can transmit the last secret revelations to you." The next day, I'm in the temple early. We are all happy about seeing each other again. I love all the neophytes and the master of the neophyte school too, this noble, loving person who never makes an unnecessary movement and never allows us to indulge in any lost motion either. Through his methods, we develop wonderful control of the body. Through these exercises, I have learned to transmit creative force corresponding to my degree of development, the power of my consciousness, into all the various aspects, parts, and organs of my body. This has made my body so conscious and so vitalized that I can feel every part of it as directly as I can the inside of my mouth. Little by little, I have learned not only to feel all my organs exactly, but also to control them consciously. For example, I can now control my heartbeat. To do this, I have to concentrate on a particular point in my body, namely the seat of the force that compels me to inhale. When we exhale all the air in our lungs and then don't inhale again, something forces us to inhale, forces us until we absolutely must inhale again. What is it that forces us to inhale is harder to discover. Must inhale again. No, let me read that sentence again. When we exhale all the air in our lungs and then don't inhale again, something forces us to inhale, forces us until we absolutely must inhale again. What is it that forces us to inhale is harder to discover than what it is not. Certainly, it isn't the nose, which doesn't actually breathe at all, but is merely an opening through which we can breathe. It isn't our lungs either, for we can clearly feel that they were merely working instruments in the breathing process. Finally, we discover that a certain force, located in the region of the heart, causes us to inhale and controls our breathing. When I think myself into this point, I can speed up or slow down my heartbeat at will through the power of imagination. Similarly, I have learned step by step to bring all the organs of my body under the control of my will. It's wonderful to have so much control over your body. Metupa was very satisfied with my progress. He nods and he gives me a warm and friendly smile when he notices me again among the neophytes this morning. After our group exercises, I ask Ima, you promised me a new concentration exercise. Yes, listen, says Ima. Up to now, you practiced your concentration exercises combined with slow, regular breathing in which you've inhaled the air and then you've exhaled it again. From now on, when you sit down to your concentration exercises, you ought to practice them differently. As long as you inhale and exhale, you're identifying yourself with your body. Excuse me. But the truth of the matter is that your body is really doing the inhaling and exhaling, not you. The body lives because the higher self, God, breathes his own breath into it. We are all alive because of our physical being inhales the breath of God. You know that God is the self in you. Sorry about that, I got interrupted. I'm just going to continue on from where I was. The body lives because the higher self, God, breathes his own breath into it. We're all alive because our physical being inhales the breath of God. You know that God is the self in you. Thus, your body inhales yourself, you, and that gives your body life. As long as you believe that you are the one that's breathing, you're identical in your consciousness with your body instead of with yourself. On the other hand, when you experience in your consciousness that your body is inhaling yourself, and then again in breathing, giving yourself freedom, you can experience the marvelous transition out of the person, the animated body you have been up to the present, into your true self. From now on, as you practice, try to realize that not you are inhaling and exhaling, but you are being inhaled and exhaled in your body. With every breath, you'll have the feeling during inhaling that you're filling your body with life-giving power, and your body is inhaling you, and in exhaling that you are withdrawing yourself from the body and remaining separate from it within yourself until the next breath. When you succeed in doing this, you'll experience something similar to the death of the body when you withdraw yourself from it and your body exhales you for the last time. Practice this a while and tell me how you get on. As Ima is about to go, I ask him to stay a moment and to tell me how, with Father's help, I found little Bo-Ghar and saved him. And tell him how, with Father's help, I found little Bo-Ghar and saved him. Ima, I tell him, I'd like to bring the boy to the temple for his training and education. Would you be willing to spend some time with him and see what he's particularly talented for? Yes, indeed, I'll be glad to speak to Menupa, and he will take him in. He can live in the temple, and he can get his training with the other children. No, Ima, I answer, I want to keep the boy with me. He has something infinitely loving and pure about him. I'll bring him to the temple every day, and I'll take him back in the evening, and I'll bring him along tomorrow. The next day, Bo-Ghar comes to the temple with me. He doesn't know where I'm taking him because he doesn't yet understand what we say to him, but he comes along anyway, obedient with touching confidence and a radiant face. He is happy to be able to come along with Menu and me. I loved Bo-Ghar from the very moment I first saw him, half drowned in the water. He is fond of me too, and it's easy to see. He is only really happy when he is allowed to sit at my feet. In the temple, I take him through the long colonnade into the school of neophytes, where talented children are getting their training. At first, he doesn't want to let go of my hand. I understand that he's afraid, and I want to leave him here. I embrace him warmly, and I tell him it's perfectly all right for him to stay here, and that I'll come back, and I'll take him back to the palace with me in the evening. He doesn't understand my words, and he looks at me anxiously with big questioning eyes. As he sees that I'm not taking leave of him, he apparently quiets his fears somewhat and stays behind. When evening comes, I go to get him. I find Bo-Ghar is getting along famously with the other children, making ample use of hands and feet. He's telling them something while they listen to his tale with greatest interest, as if they understood him. When Bo-Ghar sees me, his eyes light up joyously, and he runs to meet me, and he throws his arms around my neck. I am delighted to see that he feels already so much at home. From this point on, every morning finds the three of us going to the temple, Menu, Bo-Ghar, and I. And as the weeks and months go by, little Bo-Ghar learns our language so well that he rapidly gains ability and fluency in expressing himself. He takes part in the early morning physical exercises under the direction of Menupa. His body is alive to a surprising degree, and the conductivity of his nerves is extraordinarily great. He does the exercises with tremendous concentration, revealing a great and innate control over the body. Ima loves him and devotes as much attention to him as possible, and the lonely little lad who has lost his relatives takes to Ima like a brother with all his heart. He is grateful for every kind word. In the temple, the heads of the school have found out that Bo-Ghar shows little inclination toward the sciences, but lots of talent for drawing and modeling, and that's why Imhotep, the great artist, has taken him into his studio as his youngest apprentice. Imhotep predicts a great future for him. Every evening, Bo-Ghar waits by the temple gate for me, and on the way back to the palace, he tells me what's happened and what he's learned and what he's done with the other children. Excuse me. Sorry about that. That was another interruption. I really am sorry about that, but I am going to continue because we've already done 24 minutes of this, and I'm just going to finish it because there's only one paragraph left, okay? So, every evening, Bo-Ghar waits at the temple gate for me, and on the way back to the palace, He tells me what happened and what he's learned and what he has done with the other children. If Bo-Ghar hadn't found his way so deeply into Minu's good heart, she would feel offended that he is allowed to talk to me on our way back to the palace, because I never used to allow her the same privilege. When there was only the two of us, I made her keep silent so she could not disturb my train of thought. But she seems to take it as a matter of course that I allow him privileges that I denied her. And that's the end of chapter 31. And I do apologize for the interruptions. But yes, I'll try not to let that happen again. But they were important calls, and I had to take them. So till soon.